Today's program is brought to you by OTCStockShark.com. For the latest and greatest OTC and Pink Sheets information, sign up for your account at OTCStockShark.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
In financial news, investors sought safety, dumping stocks, commodities, and riskier currencies as concerns over the flagging U.S. recovery and slowing growth in China brought global growth fears to the forefront. U.S. stocks sunk deep into the negative territory, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunging 227 points, or 2.1%, to 10,417, led by the energy, industrial, and material sectors. All 30 Dow components were in the red, with companies with big global exposure like Alcoa, Boeing, and General Electric weighing most heavily. Alcoa shed 5.2%, Boeing dropped 4.1%, and GE fell 3.3%. The Dow is on track for its fourth drop in 5 sessions and its first 200-point drop since July 16th. The NASDAQ composite fell even more sharply as technology stocks stumbled, falling 2.8% to 2,213. Chip makers led the declines, with Broadcom falling 7.3%, AMD down 5.7%, and Intel losing 2.3%. The S&P 500 stock index shed 2.5% to fall below 1,100, trading at 1,093. Only 3 of the 500 stocks traded positively, with the retailer Macy's rising 4.2% after the department store operator beat expectations on profits and revenues. In travel news, there was a magical ending to a high-seas drama in the Mediterranean as a Disney cruise ship, the Disney Magic, rescued 18 Algerians lost at sea. A Disney spokeswoman tells USA Today that the 2,400-passenger vessel joined the search for the Algerians while sailing from Gibraltar to Barcelona. The Algerians reportedly had been stranded on the open water for 4 to 5 days. A Disney spokeswoman, Renee Langley, says the shipboard team heard crew members from 2 other vessels talking on the radio about sighting the boat and then losing a visual of it. So the Disney Magic then joined the search and quickly spotted the small boat, which had lost power. Confirming a first-hand account from a passenger posted at a Disney Magic fan site over the weekend, Langley says the Disney Magic took the stranded Algerians aboard and provided them with food and cabins. In international news, on paper, the plan for the foot patrol looked perfectly safe. A stroll through a couple of villages, introductions to a few village elders, a 2-mile drive back to the guarded walls of the Afghan police headquarters. Easy. But the first missions of a deployment have a way of going terribly wrong. And so the company commander huddled with his platoon leader in the hours around dawn, checking potential ambush points, charting evacuation routes, worrying about every possible equipment failure. There was one variable, however, they could do little to control: the trustworthiness of their Afghan police partners. In small groups and to themselves, soldiers from the 1st Battalion, 87th Infantry, quietly fretted. Were these villages really friendly, as the Afghan police claimed? Were these roads really free of mines? What would happen if the police officer tipped off insurgent fighters to the platoon's movements? Just a week before, a different platoon in the battalion had hit a mine while accompanying the Afghan police along a dirt road. Some soldiers wondered whether the police had led the Americans into the trap. That possibility was quickly ruled out because the police were in as much danger as the soldiers were. But while depending on Afghan police, U.S. troops are always concerned for their safety.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time for Leak Ender 2000. It fixes any leak fast, no matter what's leaking. Just spray it with Leak Ender 2000, and in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll cut this garden hose with a knife, then shut off the water and spray on Leak Ender 2000. Minutes later, the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed. Leak Ender 2000 is a unique compound that fills and seals any crack or separation as it hardens. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leak Ender 2000 stops all those leaks, and it's yours for only $14.95. Call now and we'll double your order. We'll send you this giant-size can at no extra charge. Order now.
To order, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-936-0300 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-936-0300.
In entertainment news, Fantasia Barrino overdosed on aspirin and a sleep aid, but her injuries are not life-threatening. The overdose came the same day she read a court complaint from a woman who alleged that Barrino carried a year-long affair with her husband. Her manager, Brian Dickens, said Fantasia is heartbroken and is sorry for any pain she may have caused. Yesterday, she was totally overwhelmed by the lawsuit and the media attention. The former American Idol winner was hospitalized overnight but was expected to go home. The police report obtained by CNN said Dickens called 911 to report the overdose at the singer's home in Charlotte, North Carolina. In tech news, in a sign that computer geeks no longer rule the earth, Nintendo's Wii, the console that it couldn't even keep in stores for most of its life, has sold 30 million units. Still not impressed? That figure is for the U.S. only. Worldwide sales to end of this March this year were 71 million. The Wii is 45 months or almost 4 years old, making it the fastest selling console of all time and something of a money spinner for Nintendo. But why? Why has the Wii sold so much better than the objectively more powerful serious consoles from Sony and Microsoft? Because it appeals to the mainstream market. U.S. geeks are no longer the target customer of tech companies. Normal, non-nerds are buying more gadgets than we ever can, and it's changing the kind of gadgets that are being made. The Wii's appeal is obvious. It has that neat controller that anyone can pick up and use, and it was marketed from the start to parents, kids, and people who don't play video games. It doesn't hurt that Nintendo itself has consistently been the best first-party games designer since Jumpman first kicked Donkey Kong's butt, avoiding games that appeal only to the teenage boy. We can see the shift elsewhere. Take Apple, for instance. Despite what whining, protesting nerds might think, Apple doesn't care about us anymore. If you know what a file system is or care what interface your peripherals use to hook up to your machine, the iPad isn't for you. It's for people who don't use or like computers, just like the Wii is for people who don't play video games. In health news, researchers report that a spinal fluid test can be 100% accurate in identifying patients with significant memory loss who are on their way to developing Alzheimer's disease. Although there has been increasing evidence of the value of this and other tests in finding signs of Alzheimer's, the study, which will appear in the archives of neurology, shows how accurate they can be. The new result is one of a number of remarkable recent findings about Alzheimer's after decades when nothing much seemed to be happening, when the progressive brain disease seemed untreatable, and when its diagnosis could only be confirmed at autopsy. The field has suddenly woken up. Alzheimer's medical experts now agree the disease starts a decade or more before people have symptoms, and by the time there are symptoms, it may be too late to save the brain. So the hope is to find good ways to identify people who are getting the disease and use those people as subjects in studies to see how long it takes for symptoms to occur, and in studies of drugs that may slow or stop the disease. Researchers are finding simple and accurate ways to detect Alzheimer's long before there are definite symptoms. In addition to spinal fluid tests, they also have new PET scans of the brain that show the telltale amyloid plaques that are a unique feature in the disease. And they are testing hundreds of new drugs that they hope might change the course of the relentless brain cell death that robs people of their memories and abilities to think and reason. In today's green news, chimpanzees may be humans' closest relatives in the animal kingdom, but when the two species are forced to live alongside one another, the relationship is not always rosy. Even in Bissau, Guinea, where chimpanzees are revered, conflicts sometimes break out. While the residents of Bissau are required by their religious beliefs to defend chimpanzees even after they have been attacked, there are not such mandates to protect people. But by observing these interactions, researchers have gained new insight into chimpanzee attacks. The team noticed that the majority of attacks occurred during periods when wild floods were scarce. Also important, researchers noted that the attacks were typically accompanied by an increase in incidents of crop raiding and coincided with periods of heavy cultivation. These factors show that humans and chimpanzees are competing for limited resources in the transitional zones between protected habitat and human settlement. As primate habitat is degraded, human-chimpanzee competition will increase and conflict will become more common. Restoring habitat, then, is the single most important action for reducing resource-based attacks on humans. Researchers also suggest that villagers avoid planting crops and trees that are specifically attractive to chimpanzees, and that they keep transported food out of sight. Until habitat can be restored, understanding the relationship between humans and apes will be an essential element of primate conservation. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
The makeup in today's program is provided by MAC Cosmetics.